Hello, hello! I am so happy to see you here today. This is Carla from Art with Katie. Welcome to my channel. Today I am here to plan one new month for our bullet journals. Remember that every single month I visit and plan a new video for us to have a new bullet journal theme. So there's a whole playlist that you can go and visit and choose the perfect theme for your monthly bullet journal planning. Last year I did something very special because April is my son's birthday and he chose to do a theme based on Paper Mario, and I had lots of fun doing that plan. So you can check that out if that's something that interests you, because this year I have something very different, even though he came and asked me if I could plan something related to Pikachu. So if you'd like to see that plan in my bullet journal, don't forget to comment, and why not? We can create something fun with all those pocket monsters. But this year we're gonna do something really different, because as you can see, I'm planning something related to art history. And if you're thinking of ballet dancers, no, that's not the theme yet, but I have that in mind. The theme for this year's April 2022 is no one else than Louis XIV. That's right, you might know him as well as Louis XII or Louis le Grand or even Le Roi Soleil. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you're in for a treat. Louis XIV was one of the kings in France that reigned for the longest, and he was a major patron of the arts. I love the magnificence of the architectural designs when he was the king, and I just had to use them along with the furniture that they had back then somehow in my bullet journal. It's everything about opulence and magnificence. And we're gonna somehow translate that into our bullet journals. If that wasn't enough of a challenge, I also decided to do something a little bit different this year, which is not to use my black fine liner. I noticed that I'm restricting myself by only using black to do those lines and divisions and whatnot. So I noticed that other people use other colors for that task. So why not use blue, which is the color that I chose for this challenge, to do that definition of my lines and whatnot. So yeah, let's see how we do, because along that I also thought that it will be really good of me to just go back to my basics, which means using pens and markers. So let's see how I do with both those challenges. Only using blue as my main color for lines and stuff, and also just using markers. This month I follow a very special makeup tutorial to make myself look like Marie Antoinette. Yes, I know that she's not the one who was married to Louis XIV. She was actually married to Louis XVI, you know, the grandson. But that's the French girl that I could think of, and I just wanted to recreate her makeup. So I follow a tutorial by Caitlin Jones, and I learned so very much about how they use whatever they had handy to create their looks. And let me tell you, makeup back then was not only a statement, but it could even put your life in danger. So wow, very interesting. So you should check. I'm gonna put those videos that I saw on the description box below if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the makeup they used way back when. So I think that's about it for everything you need to know regarding the channel. So now's the time for you to go grab your pencils, your markers, your notebook, and you know, maybe something to drink, something to eat, and I'll see you at the end of the video.
Louis the Great, or the Sun King, was King of France from 1643 until 1715 when he died. He reigned the country for 72 years, being the longest recorder of any monarch of a sovereign country in history. He was surrounded with a variety of significant political, military, and cultural figures such as Molière, La Fontaine,
Charles Perrault, and Claude Perrault.
Louis began his personal rule of France after the death of his chief minister. Back then, it was believed that God gave them the right to rule. So he continued his predecessor's work of creating a centralized state governed from the capital. He got rid by whatever was left of feudalism by compelling many members of the nobility to inhabit his lavish Palace of Versailles, or Château de Versailles, and he succeeded in pacifying the aristocracy, becoming one of the most powerful French monarchs and consolidating a system of absolute monarchy in France that endured until the French Revolution. During Louis's long reign, France emerged as the leading European power and regularly asserted its military strength. A conflict with Spain happened during his entire childhood, and while he was king, France took part in three major continental conflicts, which were the Franco-Dutch War, the War of the League of Augsburg, and the War of the Spanish Succession. There were also some other smaller wars, such as the War of the Revolution and the War of the Reunions, which is why warfare defined Louis's foreign policy and his personality shaped his approach. Because for whatever reason, he sensed that war was the ideal way to enhance his glory. During times of peace, he concentrated on preparing for the next war, and he taught his diplomats that their job was to create tactical and strategic advantages for the French military. Wow!
I know it was a long time ago and it still baffles me. Anyway, he had very significant achievements as well during his reign other than war, that had a wide influence on the early modern era, and well into the Industrial Revolution, and up to today, including the construction of Canal du Midi, the creation of the Palace and Gardens of Versailles, the sponsorship and patronage of a lot of artists and composers like Jean-Baptiste, Molière, and
Saint-Rigaud, as well as founding the French Academy of Sciences, among many other things. Which is why he is considered a very strong patron of the arts. Louis's patronage of the arts generously supported the royal court of France and those who work under him. He brought the Académie Française under his patronage and became its protector. He allowed classical French literature to flourish by protecting a lot of writers as Molière, whose works remain influential to this day. He also protected the visual arts by funding and commissioning artists like Charles Lebrun, whose works became very famous in all Europe. Composers and musicians were also protected, and they were able to thrive. Later on, in 1661, Louis founded the Royal Academy of Dance and the Academy for the Opera, important events in the evolution of ballet. And here different things happened.
First, my camera ran out of space, and second, it was just a lost road for me because yet another marker, the third one, ran out of ink. I should have probably used watercolors to create the cover, but you know that I was challenging myself only to use markers and pens. Probably not the best tactic, which is why I had to recur to this very old hack that I know. Using a bain-marie, very fitting to this French theme video if you ask me, which helps the ink go down to the tip of the marker. Basically, you just use really hot water and then put your pen or marker inside and let it soak for, 4 to 5 minutes. It's an excellent hack when you have dry markers. This one was really just running low on ink because I overused it or used it a lot. But as you can see, it helps the ink flow. That way I was able to get the most of my marker. And I really wanted to stick to my challenge and not use materials that I wasn't supposed to, but I just didn't find a way to find or match the same color of this marker. Unlike other markers, Crayola Super Tips are not numbered, so I cannot just go and buy this color individually. Something that would be an awesome option. So after a lot of consideration and decided that I really wanted to respect the color palette that I chose for this theme, I just went and got my watercolors to finish this month's plan. I really love this Sakura Koi watercolor set, and you have seen me use them several times throughout my videos. It's especially a great option for taking with you anywhere because they're very portable and it has a great variety of color. I was resisting to use watercolors in this video for two main reasons. One, because of the challenge I gave myself, and second, because this is not the best notebook to use watercolors in. Although I have to say that it handled the water pretty well. Since my notebook's pages are quite thin, I had to be really careful. Let the watercolor dry before I saturated the page more than it could handle, and just having a very light hand with the amount of water I was using. But overall, I think the notebook handled the watercolor very well. Although I do recommend that if you're using watercolors, you have a thicker paper in your notebook, or you can do as me, just let it dry before you advance further. An unpleasant secondary effect can be that the paper wrinkles a little bit, something I'm not a fan of. If this ever happens to you, I recommend that you wait till the paper is dry, close the notebook, and then add some books for weight on top of it. That will help iron the paper. And well, another thing that I haven't tried is that you can always actually iron the paper. I've seen people do it, I haven't tried it, but if you want, just leave me a comment and we can try to iron some paper and see what happens to it. So well, it's not even half of the video, and so far we have 1 bullet journal planning theme, 2 art hacks, and some life skills. It might be time that I continue telling you about Louis XIV. As I told you previously, he's the one that converted a hunting lodge into the spectacular Château de Versailles. It took no less than 4 building campaigns. The palace achieved much of its current appearance in the 3rd building campaign, which was followed by an official move of all the royal court. And there's a lot of speculation of why Louis did something like this, because by making Versailles his palace, mainly made this city the capital of the French kingdom. Some think that it might have been because he wanted to isolate the power center, because he hated Paris, although he did establish there the police force and street lighting, so I don't think his love for Paris was in question. Another example of his appreciation of the City of Lights was the construction of Hôtel des Invalides, a military complex and home to this day for officers and soldiers re-entered infirm either by injury or old age. He also demolished Paris' northern walls and replaced them with wide tree-lined boulevards. So maybe he just wanted to be out of the city while he was remodeling, don't you think? Because even Le Louvre and other royal residences were renovated under his command. And with the relocation of the court to Versailles, the Louvre was given over to the arts and the public, which is why he has his own style. The Louis XIV style, or Louis XIV, also called French Classicism, was the style of architecture and decorative arts intended to glorify King Louis XIV and his reign. It featured majesty, harmony, and regularity, and it became the official style during his reign. This new style was imposed on artists at the newly established Royal Academy of Painting and Sculpture and the Royal Academy of Architecture. And it had such an influence upon architecture of other European monarchs, such as Frederick the Great to Peter the Great of Russia. This style had 3 periods. During the first period, architecture and art were strongly influenced by the earlier style of Louis XIII and by Baroque style imported from Italy. This early period saw the beginning of French Classicism. During the second period, under the personal rule of the king, the style of architecture and decoration became more classical, triumphant, and ostentatious. Furniture was also massive, decorated with profusion of sculpture and gilding. In the later period, thanks to the development of the craft of marquetry, The furniture was decorated with different colors and different woods. The final period is known as transition because it was influenced by new artists, becoming lighter and featured greater fantasy and freedom of line, thanks to the use of wrought iron decoration and the greater use of arabesque, grotesque, and coquille designs which continue into the Louis XV style.
Hey, welcome back. I'm so glad that you stayed till the end of the video because let me tell you, this month was a journey. Oh my God, so many things happened and I was, doubting that I was gonna finish this video on time to, put it out there for you to see. But I had to power through. I had to just realize that, yes, I am making these videos for you so that you see them, so that you enjoy them, so that you feel inspired to do something like this for your own productivity and organization. But also, life happens and you have to surrender to the situation and just understand that maybe just using markers wasn't for you this month and you need to go grab those watercolors that are gonna save your butt so you can keep planning and showing up. So thank you very much for staying with me, and if you like the video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up because I really need the encouragement this month. Before you go, let's just do a fast flip through of this month's plan. I had all the things planned, everything under control. According to me, the palette, the colors, the layouts, everything was like just so very planned. And then, things happen. A pen ran out of ink, a marker ran out of ink, another marker ran out of ink. And regardless of everything that happened, it's just so easy in terms of fixing these sort of details. I was able to show you a hack that I use when my markers are running low of ink. And I also was able to just understand that you cannot plan every single second of your life.
Just a little learning moment I had that I wanted to share with you. It's a very silly and simple example, I know. Running out of art supplies is something that a lot of us can remedy easily, and for that I'm really thankful. But this example can certainly be applied to many other more important aspects of life. And I just wanted to share this experience with you along with my monthly plan, knowing it can be of value.
I really love how my plan for April came out, and hopefully you did as well. I had some small difficulties and hopefully you saw what I was able to do to just power through. This month's theme reminded me a little bit of the one we did for January. January's theme was about tarot cards, so if you like that theme, it came out beautiful and whimsical and magical, and it's one of my favorites, so check that out. And if you liked today's video, give me a thumbs up. share this video with your friends, and of course subscribe, because every single week I have a new video for you. And you can see them all in my different playlists. Mainly I have videos that have to do with bullet journaling, organization, productivity, but I also have some other videos that touch a little bit on art materials, supplies, technique, tricks, and whatnot. So if you like any of the things I mentioned, don't forget to subscribe, as well as visiting me every single week. May you have a great day, an amazing week, a wonderful month. And remember, keep creative, keep safe, and always, always be kind. And I'll see you soon. Bye.
Please like and share my video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you next time!